lot. All three of you have done amazing, have had amazing contributions to what we call house music. This is the Vintage House Show. And so part of what that is about is celebration and preservation. This is Lawrence framing, but the celebration and preservation of Chicago house legends and Chicago house music. And
What's up, family? This is the Vintage House Show on WNUR 89.3 FM, Evanston, Chicago. We have a pivot today. We are not live in studio, but we are live on the stream on our Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live pages with none other than Shaun J. Wright and DJ Wes Green, Louie Green. Gentlemen, what's going on?
Hi, how are you?
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Yeah.
Good. Welcome to the show. Of course, Louie Green is part of the Vintage House Show fam. He's been around for the 10 years we have been celebrating the history of house music. But we have a phenomenal special guest that Louie hooked us up with,
Yes.
Shaun J. Wright, fresh off the Chicago House Music Festival, which it was a surprise to me to see you at that wonderful fest.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about doing that? Talk to us about how that came about and your time at the Chicago House Music Festival.
I was recommended by an old acquaintance and friend, Andrew Emil, who goes by Change Request, to be a part of the festival. I didn't know they were going to have me in the last slot, so all of that was a pretty big surprise, but I was honored. I have rarely gotten a chance to play in big spaces like that in Chicago specifically. Like, I've never done a Pride festival here. I've never done a big house music festival to that scale. So that was really, really cool.
That is super cool. And, I was going to sort of save this to the end, but, we're just going to pop in and we're going to go back and forth and here and there on this. But, I wondered about that. Like, that festival this year was really special to me.
Yes.
I thought it was special. I think, it had been moving here and there. The timing had gone from sort of Memorial Day weekend, sort of competing with Detroit's Movement Festival. And then it was in different neighborhoods. It was a lot going on. And my team, the Vintage House Show team, were part of the group that helped curate the show for some time, for about 3 years straight. And so we were concerned, like, do people know what's happening? Did we get the lineup in time enough? Do people know what's going on? And I just felt like at 11 o'clock when that thing opened, people were coming down. People were at all three of the stages. People were hanging out, just having such a good time. And I felt like that was a very special show. So unlike, maybe some other times when maybe just hadn't been as well received in different places throughout the city. Yes. Tell me some other places that you feel like, where would you want to play? So in Chicago and outside of Chicago, nationally, internationally, what are some of your dreams of places that you'd like to play, sing, dance, spin?
Specifically in Chicago, the Lodge Post family gatherings with Craig Loftus, who was a big hero of mine growing up. I used to sneak into the prop house many, many years ago.
Okay.
One day would be an honor to aspire to the Chosen Few stage, to work towards that. I don't know if my sound would necessarily be what fits there, but it would be just the greatest thing to have that that under my belt, that Chicago moment.
Even if it's nationally, internationally. Give me some.
Internationally, Seoul, Korea.
So where's that? And what is that?
Seoul, Korea? South Korea?
Said Seoul, Korea. I was like,
yeah.
I thought
South
it was
Korea. No.
What?
I've had the good fortune of playing a lot of places around the globe. So I still haven't been to the continent. So South Africa. I know there's some really interesting musical movements happening in Uganda and Kenya. So I would love to check that out, to play there, but also just to absorb the cultures. India as well. Yeah, those are just a few.
great places. Those would be great places. But okay, so we talked a little bit about sort of what you aspire to, but now this is the Vintage House Show, and we talk about sort of your beginning, how you're introduced to the music, and of course, the future of the music, and you are that future. But let's talk a little bit about your beginnings in the Chicago suburbs. Tell us where you were born, where you grew up, where you went to grammar school, high school, and how that in the music that you heard around those times. What was impacting you musically?
It's specific because I was born in 1982. So I'm in Maywood, and house music is burgeoning and on the radios and just a part of the ether as a child. So I didn't really recognize it as something uniquely special until I was about 10 or 11. And I attended Emerson Elementary first, then Irving Elementary, and then Roosevelt Elementary my last year of grade school, and high school at Proviso East in Maywood too. And house music was just ubiquitous. It was everywhere. It was the music we danced to at schools. I remember like school dances, especially in high school, where we had the chance to like select who we wanted to DJ if you were on class council or student council. And we were able to acquire names like, Jam and Gerald or Waxmaster, because the full tapes were really popular at the time. So they had a huge influence on what we were doing. And I was also dancing at the time in the street dancing. I was footworking. I was in a group called Mega Sweat, which is a spinoff of Main Attraction, if you're familiar with that underground juke, what became juke culture. But
did you say Mega Sweat?
Mega Sweat, yeah. I was out
Mega Sweat. I gotta I love to make fun of the early DJ names and the early groups. It's like, and you were like Mega Sweat. That is tight, man. You're like, this was the best.
Yeah. I can't claim the honor, but the year before I joined, they went to the Apollo and won.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Wow. That is so awesome.
Yeah. So my close friend who brought me into the group got to have that experience, and they didn't make the television show, but they won like one of the, they would have rounds all throughout the week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so super cool.
That is so awesome. Okay, so you grew up and you were dancing in Maywood with Mega Sweat.
I was dancing with Mega Sweat. I started studying West African dance intentionally.
Ooh.
Like we had a dance troupe, an African dance troupe at my high school at Proviso East, started by this wonderful teacher, Mrs. Robinson. And she would extend my lessons and take me, because I had such an interest in it, she would take me to Montu on Saturday mornings, and we would go to class every week. She would just pick me up faithfully, and we would drive to the South Side.
Wow.
And so that became a big part of my studies as well. Yeah.
That is so cool that you have such a teacher. I'm happy you can give her a little shout out.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of influences that we all need, certainly, to take us to the next level. So we have to be so appreciative of our teachers.
It was major for me.
Gotcha. Yeah. So then, I would love to go down a deep dive on the dancing thing, because there's a lot of DJs. I interviewed a wonderful DJ who passed not too long ago, DJ Cowboy. He is from Chicago, ended up in Atlanta for some time, but he started out sort of dancing and then skating. Of course, he was like a skater. They had a skating crew, and then they had a dance crew that he then went to Mendel and started, sort of dancing with crew. And I see this guy there, and you're like, you don't even look like you can move. Okay, like I can't even tell you can do anything. But that's how he started off, and then became a pretty major DJ. He was a radio DJ, and then also a house music DJ in Atlanta for years.
Wow.
Was top of the line, but it starts with sort of dancing, and then sort of understanding the music. So you were dancing to sort of juke. You were doing sort of that kind of thing, and then so in high school, so Proviso East, house music is everywhere, and you decide to attend Morehouse College.
Yes. I was initially intending to design roller coasters, but I always wanted to be a DJ. So in the back of my mind at 12 years old, I'm like, my mom got kind of religious, and it became difficult to like listen openly to house music because there was an affiliation with like queerness and a discomfort around, because her sister was going to the warehouse and she knew what that was. And like, there's this world of, misunderstanding and a little bit of ignorance that we've vastly overcome in the last 20 years. But I had to like get the music, so it was like my secret. It was my special place.
Mhm.
But I thought being a DJ was like this just radically far off dream. I didn't foresee it being possible. I thought it was like a shaman who was ordained by some other higher figure, because I had so much reverence for the culture.
Right.
And so my interests were elsewhere, and I was, thinking I'm going to design roller coasters, and I was going to go to MIT, and then I ended up going to Atlanta for a family reunion when I was about 16, and saw all those beautiful Black people, and I was like, I'm not going into college anywhere else but Atlanta.
Nice.
So was your major engineering?
It started off as engineering,
Okay.
and then I quickly realized I did not like physics. I realized this in like high school too. I was just like, I could do it, but it was outside of my realm of thinking. Like it was on the other side of my brain. It was static in a way. There were like definitive terms and ways of doing things, and you could explore outside of that. But I was more, I think, creatively driven. So, I did that for the first. I like literally graduated high school and went to college for a summer program for engineers the next day.
Nice.
So I couldn't get out of Chicago and Maywood fast enough. I was like, I gotta go, and I left. And by the end of that summer, I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna register undecided, because I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship that wasn't necessarily focused in any particular subject. It just general, full tuition. Yeah, so it was just like I can maneuver with ease.
Oh wow, you had a full scholarship through
I did.
Wow, that's really great. Okay,
that is amazing. I'm gonna let Louie jump in, but I do want to go back to something that I think is very important to highlight as it pertains to house music, and how older people and parents and more mature people sort of how they treated the music form, which is new, which is birthed right here in Chicago, and what they associate it with that could be negative, some positive, some negative. People were sometimes afraid of the music. What are you listening to? What are you going to, like, again, if you think about, I always love to think about back in the day, probably before you were born, when Prince came out, people thought it's devil music. If you play the album backwards, these terrible things are gonna happen to you.
Hell will be cast or something.
Yeah,
yeah. It's like,
and it was seen as deviant in some regards.
Yeah,
and also the association with it. I'm sure she was facing fears of like HIV phobia and all these things that are correlated with queerness that aren't necessarily true, but happen to like be widely present and like propagandized at that time too. So this is the 80s and 90s. So she was like, oh, I don't know about this. Right. But now she's team everything I do. So
in 1990 is when Congress passed a law saying that insurance companies had to treat AIDS patients and had to pay for their medicine. And so that was a huge thing in the fight against HIV at that time. I remember that. I remember watching the Financial News Network and saw that come across the screen, and I like literally fell out of my chair. I was like, wow, that was amazing. Yeah.
It was an interesting time, I would say, around then too. There's backlashes against so many people. There's a lot of drug use, of course, HIV. People are, again, so many things are happening. And now, we relive this as adults with so many different things, you know what I mean? With COVID, with financial crises, with war, it changes all of our lives sometimes with different things. But okay, so we'll move forward. We'll talk about sort of Morehouse College. So Morehouse, and then, but first of all, so you can sing. So when did you realize you could sing? And then how did singing jump into this, sort of your career here?
I knew I could carry a tune. My mom's an incredible singer. And my family is, I wouldn't say like hardcore musicians, but fairly musical. My grandfather could sing. My grandmother was a beautiful singer. So I knew I could carry a tune, but I didn't think much of it, because when you grow up in the church in those environments where singing is like very prominent, I was like, well, I'm not doing what they're doing. So I didn't envision myself in that space. But the first time I actually sang in public was 8th grade. And you won't believe what I sang, because my teacher heard me humming in the hallway. and she was like, "Oh, you're gonna perform at the Black History program," and I was like, "What?" I was like, I had never sang in public. I had never sang before, right? And she forced me to, and she made me pick out my song, and I picked out the Shay Damier or Shay and Ron Trent's remix of "Day by Day" by Dajé. Because there was an instrumental of the song on the maxi single.
Okay.
So imagine me like 14 years old at like this is Roosevelt and Broadview, Illinois, singing, and I have like 4 background singers, my friends, and we didn't know what we were doing, but yeah. But that's how like important house music was to me. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna sing a house music song. Nobody in the audience knew that song at all, of course. But yeah, that was just my conviction. I just loved it so much. And then the next time I sang, I was in the gospel choir for one of my electives in high school. And the teacher, again, he made me, he's like, if you're not going to perform the solo, then I'm going to flunk you.
Ooh.
So it was a threat. It was these like threats. And then I didn't sing until I was about 27 from that. Yeah, and that's a whole nother story when I joined Hercules, A Love Affair, which was this band that kind of got me my wheels going. Like, okay, I can actually do music. This is what I want to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Sweet.
Okay, I'll let Louie. You can jump in.
So since you were already talking about the music part, like what equipment do you use to make your music? Because that's something we don't really talk about a lot, when we interview producers and DJs. Like what is your favorite tools?
I'm super simple because I'm not incredibly tech savvy. But I use Logic and Native Instrument tools, Arturia, Machine.
Okay.
I've fiddled on hardware before, but there's so many sounds available now. I'm in a different time. So I find the ease of use very convenient. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tend to have a machine and yeah.
Yeah, I love Machine too. I pretty much that and use Cubase for my mixing, but I use Machine for my production stuff, unless I'm using my old school, hardware, C101 and all that kind of stuff.
One of my production partners, a few of my primary production partner, Alinka, who I have a label with, Toro, she has some hardware stuff, and so sometimes we'll work on her hardware stuff, but oftentimes we just find ourselves kind of like back to Arturia, back to these synth sounds that kind of emulate the old school thing.
Yeah.
It also has like a different kind of pump to it, right? Like we can have the aesthetic of something older, but it doesn't necessarily sound the way it sounded in the 80s or the 90s, which I think is a fresher approach in some ways, because I don't believe in trying to recreate what has been done before. I think using modern technology or capacities affords us a new landscape.
Yeah, definitely does. It was back when I was doing it, you had a 4-track, a keyboard, and a drum machine. And if you had anything else, you were probably borrowing it for somebody else. And you would die to buy a great keyboard that had a bunch of sounds on it or something like that, but you just didn't have the money. So,
and look at the resourcefulness, like what they were able to create, what you were able to create with the limited capacity. I think that's also what draws me to like kind of working within these smaller parameters, because there's something that happens organically when you limit yourself to like, I got 5 ingredients and this recipe is going to work. And I'm going to turn this recipe 6 different ways or 20 different ways with these 5 ingredients,
Yes, exactly. I'm a big proponent of mastering what you have and using what you have instead of trying to buy something else. There's some things you have to, buy something else, but master what you have first. And that's always been my advice to people. So I agree with you on that. I wanted to ask you, when did you first start DJing? And then the follow-up question was, who taught you how to DJ?
I first started DJing, practicing in 2000, 2001. Okay. And it was my best friend's cousin. His name was Jahan Jones. He was a very local DJ in Maywood. but he had a setup. He had a CDJ setup, and he would let me come over when I was on break from school. Because now I'm able to drive and move around. I'm 18, 19 years old, so I'm like, I'm feeling grown. So like I'm going over there, and he would just let me loose in his room, and he would show me one thing, and he was like, okay, now figure it out.
Right.
Which I was like, you're just leaving me hanging, but I didn't realize how important that would be.
Right.
To problem solve when it comes to DJing, and like learning the mechanics was instinctual more so than like prescribed. Which I think in the end, I know I'm kind of rushing past that, the question, but in the end, I think that helps to allow me to have my own way of making beats match and blending, because nobody actually told me you got to do it like this.
Yeah. So when I went to see you DJ, when Steve Hurley was DJing at the Smart Bar, and I saw you come on and DJ, at first I was like, man, you got to play behind Steve Hurley. But then when you started DJing, I was like, whoa, like this dude, like, no, he can spin. I came back, I told Lauren and Mega and
you gassing me.
I was like, this dude, no, for real, he could spin. I mean, and then when you started bringing in the vocal tracks and you were hitting the jog wheel to keep it on beat, you didn't even adjust the pitch. I was like, damn, that's like what I used to do back in the day with records. You just twist the knob, the little record knob just to keep it on beat. Cause you might have a SLB, turntable, and you didn't have, it wasn't a 1200. So hitting that pitch, it would just go drastic. So you didn't do that. You just the knob a little bit, and you would. I was just sitting there like, I was a fan, man. I was like, this dude is killing it right now. You know what I'm saying? I was like a straight fan. You were killing it, bro. Like real talk.
Thank you.
So I gotta stop because I'm gonna keep going into that.
No, but then continue the lessons. Thank you so much for that. Playing at the Steve So Curly is like, I feel like I've been able to reach a lot of the things that are like beyond what I could have imagined, because that's such a cross generation. Like, even though I'm not that young, I started making my name later, and I was closer to 30 than I was to 20. Working professionally in music. So to have that crossover with someone of his caliber is meaningful.
Yeah.
And I definitely have benefited from his legacy and the work of, everyone from that time. And so it's an honor always to not just be in their presence, but be able to like be on the bill alongside them.
Right.
It's huge. It's what my little 10, 12-year-old self was like, whoa.
You dreamed about it, right?
I dreamed about this. I dreamed
you on stage with the Mr. Jack, yeah. That was crazy. And I think Honey Dijon came and sat behind us while he was DJing and while you were DJing too. Mm-hmm. You knew that, right? Okay.
I've had a few chances to play with Honey too, and it's always been, she's a teacher.
Yeah.
She's masterful too. So yeah, it's a dream come true in a lot of ways. But moving, I want to throw in someone else who also taught me, I think, who had more of a hands-on kind of way of teaching me, not just with technique, because he didn't really show me technique, but he showed me more so about flow and patience and understanding what a room needs. It was a co-worker of my best friend when we were living in Harlem around 2007 or 8. He was a DJ too. He moonlit as a DJ. He worked in fashion. He used to do A&R for a lot of different dance artists. So he was in that world, playing in Brooklyn. But by the time we encountered each other, he wasn't playing as much. And so he had time and capacity to show me. And I was like, I would love to further my education on this, because I didn't have a setup of my own. I just got a DJ setup properly last year.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been faking it this whole time.
Okay, fake it till you make it, bro.
But he was incredible. His name is Bill Brown.
Okay.
And he was like, you're not going to really learn this by doing this in the room by yourself. So let's have like a little get together. And we started to have like these weekly brunches every Sunday we called them the brunch. They started at like 2 or 3, and they would go until like midnight or 1. And I would just play for like 7 or 8 hours, just nonstop. And all my friends would be there, and we would like potluck and cook and commune, and it was just beautiful. But sometimes I would just like play some techno or play whatever I was feeling, right? And then he would be like, let me get those decks for a minute. And he would come play something soulful. And the room would just like, and I was like, oh.
It would change, right?
I was like, oh yeah, I'm not just playing for me. I'm practicing. Like this was and this went on for like 2 years. So this is like before I joined Hercules. I joined Hercules, and then I started playing professionally after that. But he really schooled me in like finesse.
Yeah. And you know, I was talking to somebody like a few weeks ago, and I've opened a few times for Roy Davis Jr. And I was telling one of the DJs, I said, you know, I asked him, I said, do you know the job of an opening DJ? And he said, yeah, you get in there, you play your box, you beat your box. I said, no, that's actually not the job of opening DJ. I said, the job of opening DJ is to first set the tone.
Oh.
You know, you have to get, first of all, most of the time, nobody's on the dance floor when you get on it. So you got to bring people to the dance floor. You got to figure out how to do that. Then after that, the opening DJ takes all the risk, right? So I'm going to play soulful house. I'm going to play vocal. I'm going to play tracks. I'm going to play maybe even some techno, you know, whatever. Disco. I'm going to play all of it. And then the headliner sees what people were reacting to, what they weren't reacting to. I'm going to take all the rest. And he comes in there and he knows exactly what to do because I played all the different genres. I've taken all the risks, right? And so you take the hit as opening DJ is what you're supposed to do.
I think that's becoming a lost art form in some senses. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, but like because everything's so geared towards festival playing now, and even clubs are starting to reflect that globally. Like the hour slot, or you just like you don't really get to build a journey. Right. So even if you are opening, you get to play for 2 or 3 hours, and that's like that could be a journey, or just a DJ playing all night, which I love to play for 6 or 7 hours because you get to not only like visit music that you might not typically play because you're opening and closing for yourself, but the people who are with you along for the ride get to see the full breadth of your artistry. Right. And I think some of that is just being lost in the formula is not. I'll be happy when, because the pendulum always swings. I'll be happy when there's less focus on maximum impact.
Okay.
Of the dance floor. You know what I mean? Instead of like in the box.
I do.
Of like, what is my role in tonight and making this an enjoyable experience for everyone?
Exactly.
From the bartenders to the security staff to the dance floor to the sound and lighting people who are instrumental and coloring the night.
Yes. And see, I wanted to mention something too. And I guess it's the fan in me now, because when you played at the Chicago Festival, you played last, and you played in I think the South, was it the South Shore?
It was the South Stage, yeah.
The South Stage, right?
Yes.
And so I was there, and I watched the whole thing, and I swear it was magic. I mean, you had all the dancers that had been dancing all night everywhere else came to your stage. They started dancing, and you did something that nobody else did that night. I watched every single performance that night that I could, because I couldn't be more than one place at once.
Yeah.
But nobody else really took risk, right? You took risk. Everybody else played the same 30 songs for the most part, and they varied a little bit here, varied a little bit there, but you were hearing the same music, but you didn't do any of that. And you took risk, but you beat it so hard. It was crazy. And I'm sitting there like, wow, you did it. Like, you took risk and you beat it. And it was like, and you were in the perfect slot. You closed it out. And I didn't see nobody else do it like you did. So
thank you.
To you. Absolutely.
I appreciate that. That's a huge compliment. I don't think of it as risk taking for myself.
Okay.
Because I've never been interested in performing under anybody else's guidelines.
Okay.
It's an organic thing. It's the music that I love, that I think other people would love or enjoy, and I want to share that. And I am not again, not trying to recreate that wheel that's already been rolled across the street.
Right.
I can visit the classics, and I love that.
And you
But
did some of that too. You played
yeah,
Zig.
but
Yep.
I don't want to. I, I like that language of taking a risk because like sometimes, and I don't want to make a commentary, but I think there can be a staleness to the way that music is approached. And I understand why, because it's oftentimes nostalgic or allowing people to revisit where they once were in their youth.
Right.
I didn't come up in that. So those things that, like, I remember being a chosen few and hearing Life is Something Special. And I've heard that song quite a few times prior to that. But this particular moment, it in that context, it was special to me because I was around people who had embraced it and who had heard it when it initially came out. And that's not something that I'm able to do. I can't offer that, right? So I don't try to offer that. I try to offer my sensibilities, my perspective, my viewpoint, and gear that in a way that's acknowledging the sacredness of the dance floor and offering them something that's good and tasty.
Right.
But I don't. Yeah, it's just like I'm not gonna play like anybody else, and I don't want to.
You didn't play like nobody else.
And like, yeah, but I've never thought about it as people say, like, you play weird sometimes or you're risky, and I just don't. It's like it's all good music, but I grew up inspired by some of the weirder.
It wasn't weird.
Yeah,
you just made it work though. It wasn't weird, but you didn't play the normal tracks that everybody else was playing, and you made it work. And
there's nothing worse than cheap applause either.
Right.
There's nothing worse than cheap applause, like because everybody knows it and loves it. Then the hand in the air moment is earned. When I think about like my imagination about what Ron Hardy was able to do, which I was not there. Yeah. But my experience with like DJ Cedric from DC or Craig Loftus or these people, they would play a lot of the same music, but the way they would approach it, it always felt fresh because it was new at the time.
Right.
And like there's new things that are really just glorious that are being looked over.
Yeah.
Because people want instant like recognition. This is gonna work. And it's like you gotta work hard.
I did an interview with Gene Hunt back many years ago. I never released it. I finally put it out on my YouTube page. But he talked about how Ron Hardy trained him how to teach people what good music is. So you might want to go check that out. It was very interesting. But
I would love to.
But Ronnie wasn't so much into his blends. So if you ever heard, there were so many people back in the day putting out Ron Hardy tapes, right? And they would say, this is a Ron Hardy tape, this is Ron Hardy tape. And what it really was, most of the time, was somebody making a tape, playing the style of music he played, and selling it. Very few people actually had Ron Hardy mixes because he never really focused on the blends. He focused on the music. And he played people's music. He broke new music. Like he would, I think that was the difference between Ron Hardy and Frankie Knuckles. So Frankie Knuckles, if you brought him some music, it better be polished. It better be mastered. It better sound right. It's got to be, man, for real. And then he'd play it. Now, Ron Hardy, you bring him a little tape acid tracks. Like he played it 4 times that night when he first played it, Chip E's Time to Jack, his house. Like he played that like 3-4 times that night, or someone he played it the first time. So that's what Ronnie used to do. And that's what made him special to me. If you ask me, and I was controversial, he is the godfather of house, not necessarily Frankie Knuckles. I feel like Frankie Knuckles was part of it. But anyway, so we're going down the rabbit hole on that.
No, like what are you about to say?
All right, I have no opinion.
Right. But
all of them have made space for, I think, freshness and newness, and I appreciate when I hear artists who are exploring, the tradition and the roots, while also bringing us forward.
Right. So the next question was going to ask you, who are your 3 biggest, and it doesn't have to be, the biggest inspiration, like DJs coming up, like who are your favorite DJs?
Favorite DJs? DJ Cedric, for sure.
Okay.
Who many people may not be familiar. He is still very big on the Black Gay Circuit. He used to play at Tracks Atlanta all the time when I was younger. And I think I was in the age range to really feel and hear the music differently than I was when I was like a preteen or a 16-year-old. I was growing into my adulthood, and his sensibility and flavor. It was a lot of gospel house, but also a lot of tribal and even some circuit music, but like tasteful and really well done. Had a big impact on me. Another DJ who I admire a lot is Tamasumo from. She's a resident at Berkheim Panorama Bar.
Okay.
Her and her partner Lakutia are incredible together, and they're incredible people, incredible human beings. But I feel like when Tamasumo plays alone, in particular, I'm transported into a different world every single time. Like I don't know any of the music she plays. And it always, I love to be educated on the dance floor. That's my like kink. Like it's great. Huh?
Have you been to Berkheim?
Oh yeah, I've played there quite a few. That was the first show I ever did in Germany.
Really?
Was at Berkheim with Hercules and Love Affair. And we performed there a few times, and I did another show there with this outfit called Stereogamous. With our original material, we did a live show in Panorama Bar. Then I started DJing there in like 2015.
Wow, that's huge. A lot of people haven't played Berkheim. That's
it's pretty special. Yeah, I haven't played in the last couple of years, but I played over a dozen times for sure.
Okay.
Performed.
All right. So who's your third one now?
Third. Oh, that's a. I'm not going to say any of my contemporaries because I have a lot of wonderful, amazing contemporary DJ friends.
Right.
But someone who like inspired me to want to push harder is a contemporary, Nita Aviance.
Okay.
DJ Nita from New York, a part of the Carrie Nation duo. She's incredible. And we're peers, but still I have a lot of admiration and respect. So if I had to pick someone closer in range to me, yeah, it would be Nita.
Okay. All right. Your top 3 records. Like growing up, like what are the top 3 records that inspired you to DJ? When you heard these records, you was like, oh my God, like, yes.
Maybe not to DJ, but inspired me to like even I just want to be enveloped in the world of house music.
Yes, okay, that's better.
Jump Chico Slam's Feel Free.
Okay.
It was featured on the new Chicago House Sound from Casual Records.
Okay.
And I was already a big fan of like Dajae and Cashmere, Green Velvet. But I heard that song and I heard pieces of myself in ways like it revealed me to me. I was like, whatever's happening here sonically is telling so many stories, and there's like this funky bass line, this jazzy loop, a little bit of dissonance, a repeating vocal that almost kind of is familiar to like a Negro spiritual, but it's not a Negro spiritual, but I can hear the essence of. I just hear such a like
the repetition kind of thing.
Yeah. It just feels like it's like if you told me this was made in the 1920s, if it didn't have the kick, I would believe you.
Right.
You know, like because it has this Suge Avery color to it. It just has this like rural 1920 Georgia black warmth to it, and by Sagat, Jump Chico Slam, that was his other alias. Who made Funk That, which was huge on the radio, but that song in particular was super inspiring. Another song I would say, I'd be remiss if I didn't say anything by Dajae, but I would say, I mean, Brighter Days just had me, again, it spoke to me. I thought it was a beautifully written song.
Dana Divine,
yeah. The sense, the way that she was able to convey the lyrics, I think are even larger then like it defies categorization. Like to me, she's the true queen of house music.
Yeah.
Um,
That's my mom's favorite song. My mom's favorite house song. She didn't like house music, but she liked that because it starts off feeling so blue.
It's just
what should I do? What should I
do?
do?
Yeah, it's just in the lyric. It's in the lyric.
It was just
Shine,
crazy.
we need you to sing it, Shaun.
Oh, no. Lose breath. You hear my nasal congestion.
Right. It's
But,
like mom loved that because she felt like it was speaking to her, like trying to make things all right, and they turn out wrong.
Yeah.
And she just identified with it so much. And Dana
the
was like,
blues.
yeah. Dana was
I
like, I want to go speak to your mom. And I was like, she's already passed. And she was like, man, but it was such a touching sentiment. She was going to go meet my mom because that was her favorite song,
Yeah.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
And if I had to pick a third one, a third one is going to be hard because like there's 500 others that are kind of comparable.
Right.
But I would go for something definitely from Masters at Work. No, I would say I Won't Waste Your Time by Joy Cardwell.
Okay.
It was like her, Fred Jorio. It came out on Tribal America. It's just beautiful. It's sweet. It's softer than most. I don't usually play a lot of soft music. Sometimes I do,
right.
depending on my mood. I can, do whatever, but switch it up. But this is, I think the lyrics of these songs in particular are what resonate with me even more than the music itself is beautiful. For Brighter Days, for Feel Free by Judge Chico Slam. I Won't Waste Your Time, but this poetic lyricism in house music to me is just the ultimate ecstatic experience.
Okay. What keeps you inspired, to just keep doing it? Sometimes you feel like, why am I doing this or whatever, or people don't really respect the art of DJing anymore. People want you to come out and DJ for free, whatever, all that kind of stuff. What keeps you motivated?
It's a spiritual journey. And it's really, for me, close to my relationship with the divine, with God. And so I'm in conversation, I think, oftentimes with that which brings me life. So I have not yet, I won't say I never will, but I've not yet had a moment where I have regretted or didn't want to continue.
Okay.
I feel like the promises of the vision of myself that I have had since I was a child are unfolding right before my eyes. And I just keep aspiring for more of that. That keeps me inspired. It's like there's more things to learn. There's more techniques musically, more music theory, more music styles, more art. I love. I studied fashion curation in grad school in London.
Okay.
And a part of that was really based around visual arts curation, so that the love for fashion, and I worked in fashion. I used to write for the collection. So all these things, when one thing may feel a little bit stale, which music never does, ever, but I can visit these other artistic practices or interests and just, converse with other artists and explore how they feel about it. Even me moving back to Chicago was inspired by just having an incredible time. I was living between Detroit and Berlin for a few years. And I was really inspired by the work that a lot of the Detroit artists were doing, particularly visual artists, like my friends Tiff Massey, who just had an exhibition at the DIA, like the first Black woman to be featured there in a solo exhibition, or the second, but the show of the scale. It was impressive. And we would converse all the time when I lived there. And I was like, there's no better place to do this, to build my career than Chicago. So many people, I left when I was 18. I didn't come back till I was 30. Then I left again. And then I came back in my late 30s, 6 years ago. And it's like, I want to write music in Chicago, of Chicago, for Chicago, for me and my newfound relationship with Chicago as an adult. as a person who has autonomy and agency over my decisions. I'm not reacting to the Chicago that I felt like I needed to escape from at 18 or what I'm looking for. So that in of itself is inspiration. Having this conversation is inspiring.
Okay. Do you first of all, do you have a day job, or do you do DJing and producing 100% for your income?
Yes.
Oh, 100%. That's awesome.
And I live modestly. I live within my means, and I sacrifice over the years to be able to do that. Like, because it's not always lucrative, but it's worthwhile. And I haven't had a day job outside of music besides COVID, when I worked at Gramophone, and I had the pleasure of working at Gramophone.
Okay.
But I'd worked there before when I first returned to Chicago. But I haven't had a day job since 2007.
Wow.
And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a blessing. And there are I'm learning at this point in my life, there are things that I want to solidify. I'm never opposed to doing whatever I need to do to get, what I need to get.
Right.
But music and art are my main focus.
Do you feel like DJs get paid enough for what they do?
I think there's a lot of inequity in. Ooh, let me reflect on that. Actually,
I didn't tell you I was going to ask you that question. I know I kind of hit you with that.
I mean, you're an artist. You all are definitely artists. You are creating wonderful things, and I think that is a fair question. Like, to keep keeping people happy and flowing on dance floors. I mean, this is hard work. I mean, as someone who tried to learn how to DJ, I was like, this is hard. Like, this is not easy. So
it's a lot, because you got to curate the music.
It's a lot of back end work, right? They see you doing this thing, and that's, to me, the performance is the easier part, because especially when I'm locked in or I'm in flow. But like, it's the hours and years of compiling all this music and like cataloging and and cross-referencing and knowing the history. You're an archivist in a lot of ways. I think once you're at like a higher level of, because some people just do it for fun, and I don't take that as a slight. And I think there's different styles of DJing. It's not just like a one thing. That's why I was like, I want to step back and reflect on it, because I'm not a wedding DJ.
Right. Okay.
I think that is a specific skill set, and I admire and appreciate people who do that. I'm not interested in taking requests. I am not.
Man, you just hurt my heart there. I'm a big, like,
all
DJs world. Hey,
I know a lot of DJs that have gotten like in trouble for the way they respond to somebody making a request to them.
I'm never rude, but
trust me, I know a lot of people that I'm not a jukebox. That's what most DJs will say. I'm not a jukebox.
If you like that song so much, go play it in your car on the way home.
Amen.
Like,
amen.
So I have respect for people who are like willing to haul equipment, and like my forefathers and mothers who had 45 crates of records that they had to, like, I don't have to do that. I play vinyl sometimes, but I don't have not to all the time. And so I think there's different tiers of DJing, and not one is higher than the other, but they're different.
Right.
And I think some people are paid so exorbitantly that it kind of takes away the spirit of the culture, because late stage capitalism, if I'm going to wax politically, or it's just it robs the essence of accessibility. And so if a ticket is over $100, then who can afford to be there? Or who can, and if you're getting paid, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't take that money if I was offered $50,000 or $100,000 to play something. That's a moral question that I'll wrestle with when I cross that bridge. So, but I think there's something that is lost, like you said, within that process of like.
So do you feel like I don't want you to feel like you have to answer this question, because it's kind of politically charged a little bit.
I'm not afraid.
Lauren would love you to answer this, but Do you feel like a DJ born and raised in Chicago where house music was created, and you contributed to the culture and such, and then we've got other DJs across the world that didn't contribute. I mean, now they're contributing, but they did, and they are the top 100, on the top 100 list for DJs being paid for house music in the world. Do you feel like that's a little bit? Is that fair? Is it unfair?
I think it's a microcosm within the macrocosm of colonialism.
Okay.
If I'm going to be honest, that Black people create and contribute so much to the world and are very rarely rewarded for it. And I think about I've thought about, when you ask me about staying inspired, that's interesting because I've thought about the negotiations and compromises I had to make throughout my career, because I didn't think that it would be something that would be usurped. I didn't think house music would be taken from us as an industry in the ways that it has. So as a 15-year-old, I'm thinking I have all the time in the world to do whatever I want to do, not knowing that's maybe when I should have started to have a better footing in the industry, but that's actually not my concern. So I realized that wouldn't have been my plan anyway, or my trajectory.
Okay.
But just the notion of when Black people make it, everyone else gets to take it and profit off of it.
Right.
It's bothersome. And I'd be remiss to say it's not. I think that would be a lie. I think we'd have to be really doing some cognitive dissonance in saying that this is ours. And everyone gets to enjoy it. And I don't like the rhetoric of it's just for all people either. I've never believed in that. I believe everybody gets to enjoy it. I believe everybody gets to participate, right? Yeah. But there should be a reverence for Black creativity that is not there. And
but that's the product of being stolen and brought here, and everything we do that we had was monetized. Yes. Terrorized as well. So guys, we are on the tail end of this conversation. We're going to have to wrap it up. It's been an amazing hour almost so far. And we could talk to you forever, but we do want to make sure that we have some time so you can tell us about what you see for the future of house music, future of your career, and where we can find you, where folks can find you. If they want you to spin globally, where can we find you? New music, where can we find you?
Awesome. Oh, the future of house music. I wouldn't be so arrogant to say I know, but what I'm excited about is seeing a lot of younger POC, particularly Black people, finding their way back to the sound. I was a part of the generation where the sound was. I'll speak to queer spaces specifically, where Black gay clubs house dominated, and then it became hip hop in the early 2000s, and I experienced that transition, and it was disjointing because I felt like in the desire to assimilate in some ways, we lost our magical recipes that made us unique in the world, and I won't say left the door open to be bastardized, because that's not how I feel. But I think there was a few generations that maybe missed the beauty of house music, and I'm seeing that turn around where younger people are interested in it, and that makes me really excited because I'm kind of in this bridge era as a 40-something-year-old, young 40s, and I'm seeing 20-year-olds who are working towards making beautiful, pure house music, or whatever electronic music form they're inspired by, that's rooted in Black history and culture. And that's exciting. That's exciting because I think I will say I think there needs to be more effort made on the part of older people within the scene to cross connect with younger people, because we don't necessarily have access to them in the ways it's not as easy to gain that connectivity. I think especially in Chicago, I've noticed, and we don't want those recipes lost. That information that you bestowed upon me today, that needs to be passed down and archived, but like kept alive. That energy is not lost. It can just be transformed from one generation to the next. Because who's going to tell the story?
Right.
And as far as me playing, you can always come check me out on Instagram at Shaun J. Wright, ShaunJWright, or my SoundCloud. And I have a link tree there where you can find contact for my North American agent, Michelle Urfer at The Bunker, who works out of New York City with some incredible artists there too. So, you know, if I'm not available, you can always check those people out too. I love to share the wealth.
Wow.
Yeah. That's so nice. We're trying to focus on Shaun J. Wright right now.
Yeah.
We'll get
I'm a Queen resident at Smart Bar and just a regular resident. So I play there at Smart Bar at least once or twice a month at minimum.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, I always feel free to pull up and say hi to. I love meeting people who are into it, who are in the culture.
Sweet.
Well, Shaun and Louie, number one, thank you so much for introducing us to Shaun. And, you know, Mega is on the line. What's up, Mega? He is just, you know, suggesting what thoughtful questions you've had for our guests today. Mm-hmm. And Shaun, we really appreciate you being open and honest with us and talking about your life and career and where you want to, you know, what you want to have happen with house music next. And, you know, where we can find you. And we're going to support you as much as we can. So let us know where you are and we'll share it with our friends.
I truly appreciate that. Thank you.
Anything else? Where do we want to leave this? Louie, you got any last words or are you good?
I guess the last thing I wanted to talk about is in the DJ community, we kind of talked about this previously. How do DJs retire? So I don't know if I want to make it a question or more as a statement. And I want all the DJs listening and all that kind of thing to kind of think about that, because we've got a lot of DJs now and producers and stuff that are getting sick, they're getting older, and then, you know, everybody's putting up a GoFundMe page, that kind of stuff. And we're not paid accordingly based on our contributions to house music as African Americans. And we created this genre, right? And if we were, retirement would be easy, right? Because we would be making the type of money where we could retire pretty easily, but we're not. So I think we're going to have to start strategizing and thinking about how we can better monetize what we do as a career and something that we love, so that we can retire and we can reap the benefits of our art that's trying to, I don't want to say it's being stolen from us, but it feels like it to me.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
I think we have to plan just like we would have planned if we were doing other things. So if we're thinking about that as young people, like Mr. Wright is, that Shaun Wright is, we would already be thinking, what is the future? How am I planning for that? Is that production? Is that bringing in a team? Is that, you know, sharing with others, like, you know, touring the world? It sounds like Shaun's been all over at least the United States and London, you know, sort of understanding the music.
Germany, right. Bergheim, all of that, yeah.
So you're all over the place. So it makes us think about, you know, sort of the future and how we are planning for it. So on that note, thank you all so much. Thanks for joining the Vintage House Show. Check us out on all of our channels, vintagehouseShow.com. And we will see you next week with Kevin Mega McFall, 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, Wednesdays, 89.3 FM, and all of our channels. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Vintage House Show podcast. Please subscribe and share, and check us out live, WNUR 89.3 FM, Wednesdays at 10 o'clock.